Hello and welcome. This is your host, Olivia Brown, and stay tuned because later we will be having a very special guest. One of the biggest top stories today is about Trump and his message that he put on Truth Social, which is his platform that he has been using instead of Twitter, and been able to have a free flow of his thoughts like we used to have back in the day. So he's been talking more about the raid of his home, and he had previously left out one detail, and he shared with us what really happened on Truth Social. He said, in the raid of Mar-a-Lago, the FBI demanded that all security cameras be turned off. What is that all about? We said no. To me, that is incredibly suspicious that they would want to have the cameras off. You usually think that cameras are only off when there is something bad going down. Why would the FBI not want them to be able to see it? There's been a lot of controversy with Christina Bobb, Trump's lawyer, who said that she couldn't get in during the raid. She had to stay in the parking lot, but at least once they turned the cameras back on, Trump was allowed to see what was going on. Here's more of what Christina Bobb had to say.
It's kind of funny. I think the folks in New York, President Trump and his family, probably had a better view than I did because they had the CCTV that they were able to watch. I was stuck in the parking lot there to collect paper and answer questions, but they were actually able to see the whole thing. So they actually have a better idea of what took place inside.
And so that was another point of controversy that I've read two different, completely contrasting reports on. One said that the FBI actually made them turn off all of the cameras. You're telling me that they didn't. Please elaborate.
Well, they did. So initially they said you need to turn off all the cameras, and then of course the staff complied and said, oh, the FBI is making us turn off the cameras, and then the lawyers jumped in and said, no, you actually don't have to turn them off. So shortly after they turned them back on. So the cameras were only off for a very short period of time.
Thankfully, they were able to turn those cameras back on before anything shady went down there during the raid. Down in Texas, we are seeing that a reporter caught a very shocking video of what the Border Patrol was doing with illegal immigrants. And here we can see what there is a group of immigrants here who are at the border waiting to be let in at this gate. And you can see that the National Guard, Texas National Guard, is just kind of standing around, not letting them in, because the Texans and Governor Greg Abbott has had a very different approach to border policies than Biden has. And Biden has stopped the policies that Trump had, like remain in Mexico, and really, really caused this border crisis to be a lot worse than it was. And we've been seeing so many more people be let in. This video here shows that the Border Patrol, they come in and they open it, they get the key, and they let all of the illegal immigrants in. They just let them in to be processed. And it's interesting now that illegal immigrants are actually seeking out Border Patrol because they want to get in quickly, and they don't have to sneak around because it's so easy to get in during the Biden administration. So for context, the Border Patrol is a federal law enforcement agency compared to the Texas law enforcement, which Governor Abbott has been doing the Operation Lone Star, which has helped local sheriffs be able to catch illegal immigrants and work on the state level. Plus, they are continuing to build and construct a new border wall. These are all positive things, but it gets derailed when we have, on the federal level, the immigrants are just being sent on their merry way. And we've been seeing that Abbott has been trying to send immigrants to like Washington, D.C. and New York. And that actually made all the liberal mayors very unhappy and are saying now we need the federal government to step in because we can't deal with all these illegal immigrants. Well, I'm from Arizona, and other people in other border states, now New York knows how we feel. So really, it's interesting to see how this is going to go and this is going to play out. Speaking of the Biden administration, so Kamala Harris's husband recently has come under fire for a move that really put a bad taste in everyone's mouth. He was really basically shopping at Whole Foods, and you won't believe what he did while he was shopping. Let's show this video.
Well, it looks like you can add the vice president's husband to the liberal privilege list. New video now showing his motorcade hogging several handicapped parking spots while he leisurely shopped at Whole Foods in Brentwood, California. And when the second gentleman left the upscale supermarket, he even stopped to say hello to his fans. Watch.
How you doing, Mr. Emhoff?
Very good.
Have a great day, sir.
And he seemed completely unfazed that his motorcade was clearly blocking those parking spots. Harris, his wife, the vice president, said in August of 2019, when we ensure that every American with disabilities is able to fully participate in our schools, our workplaces, and all aspects of our communities, our country is stronger. I guess her husband doesn't feel the same way.
Oh, it's so unfortunate. By the way, I thought it was pretty funny how you call the media the fans. Because that was clearly a scripted moment between him and Mr. Imhoff. But very funny. I think this is one of those just grab the privilege and ride it home, cowboy. Like, I just don't think they think deep enough to something that his wife might have said earlier about, giving an advantage to those who might need it at a time, that sort of thing. I really don't think it was mean-spirited. But it is one other thing that's politically dangerous. It's oblivious.
It really is dangerous seeing how that he is really abusing the power that he has to illegally park in handicapped spots. What if a disabled person needed to be there? If I were to do that, then I would be penalized if I was in a disability parking spot without having a placard. So why does this not apply to the Secret Service, to really the elitists? And they're always so politically correct and talking about white privilege, different types of privilege, but really he has the elitist privilege, which we're seeing in DC and the swamp. And really, just like she said, he needs to be really owning that privilege and ride it home, cowboy. Our special guest today is Melissa Levitt, who is a part of and the organizer for the recount in Kansas for the ballot measure, Value Them Both. Welcome, Melissa.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, so how is it looking in Canvas, this recount that you've been doing? Can you tell us a little bit more about the ballot measure before we get into the specifics about why you're recounting it?
Sure, the ballot measure was an abortion amendment. It would essentially have given the power to our legislature to make regulations on abortion within the state. And so it would have actually amended our Constitution. And so ultimately, it was kind of a confusing bill. There was a lot of confusion around it. There was a lot of misinformation and different things happening at the end right before the primary. So that's kind of the gist of the Value Them Both.
What is your role in the recount, and what have you been doing to get it started?
My role in the recount is just a concerned citizen, essentially. I am an election integrity researcher. And so in Kansas, after every election, there is only 5 days allotted to ask for a recount. And they have stipulations on this, whether you're a candidate or, a voter. And I found out just short of the deadline that I had standing to ask for the recount statewide because it was a state question, essentially. And so I just felt called and had some conversations with some folks that were interested because we saw a county in our state who had a race that was being flipped by the machines. And so when we found out about that, obviously that was a huge deal and a concern. This was a commissioner's race, and that county essentially did locate that error, thank goodness, and they were able to go back and recount, and that race would have been won by the wrong person. And so I think that overall in the spectrum of election integrity, we don't have enough time in 5 days to complete core requests, which is an open records request in Kansas, to get data that would give us a good option as to whether or not a recount is a good idea. So you kind of just have to jump in and go for it. And that's what we've done.
What is the due date that you have to have this recount finished?
The recount is supposed to be finished 5 days and after it's requested. And so that would be Saturday.
That's exciting. So what is the goal of this recount, and what will you do if the recount doesn't show what you'd like it to?
The goal is to get as much data as we can. In Kansas, we have struggled to verify a lot of the machine reports and things like that. It's generally linked into secrecy of ballot, even though you're not identifiable to your vote once you cast it. And so we really struggled in Kansas to be able to get clarity on a lot of the questions that we have. And so essentially this is kind of a giant core request, which is our right to do as a citizen. And, the thing we're seeing is that votes aren't being counted properly. So we just want to verify that. That's the stance of this. I feel like everyone has the right to know that at the end of the day, the machines are doing the right thing. We don't believe they're even properly certified from the information from HABA and the federal guidelines. So we have a lot of questions that are just still unanswered here in Kansas. And so we're working diligently to make sure that the elections here are fair and conducted within the guidelines from the federal and state, standards.
When we spoke on the phone today, you said that you have been bombarded by calls from the mainstream media, but you have decided not to interview with them. Why did you decide to do an exclusive interview with the Western Journal instead?
I think everyone has a right to be represented properly. And I feel like I have a good inkling for people that have good intentions or not. I mean, depending on your beliefs, we're not here to judge anyone on that, but it's just nice to be represented for what our cause is and not what the other media outlets choose their narrative should be. I feel like some of that misrepresentation is deterring people from the actual message and the actual goal here. Transparency is a huge thing, and it's just kind of disheartening how the media can work against people who may not have the intention they portray in their articles.
What type of pushback have you been seeing from within the state and nationally?
The state's really been very generous and kind to us, and we appreciate that. We haven't had any pushback. It's just this has been the first time this has happened in 30 years. So since the implementation of the use of election machines in our state, no one has hand recounted anything like this. So I feel like it's vital for the state to go through this, in a learning experience. And this is the same for the citizens as well. We're all learning as the days go by what our rights are and how we can operate and make things better for our clerks and for the state and for the citizens. So, there's a lot to it, and I just think it's an awesome opportunity, and we're super, gracious to all the people that have been donating to help us meet our goal and get this done.
That was going to be my next question. So I saw that you do have a fundraiser for this. How much money have you raised, and why do you think that people are putting their hard-earned money into donating for this cause in Kansas?
I think that the abortion issue strikes the heart of many people, whether you're on one side or the other. And ultimately, I think that election integrity also is doing the same thing. We're just trying to bring transparency to every process, and we want to make sure that everyone's vote totally counted the proper way. And, that's really, really vital to everyone's trust in their elections. And I think it should be welcomed by everyone, no matter what. So the Give, Send, Go has raised $52,000 so far. We are over, getting really close to halfway through, but we have to get that done by Saturday. We'd like to get it done. And, ultimately the faith people have in God is really a driving force. And this is a big thing for a lot of folks. And we want them to just feel encouraged, to do what they can do in their own area. A lot of people don't even know how to support election integrity. And this is one way they can do that, supporting folks like me who are stepping up to the plate and putting it on the line and bearing that burden.
Thank you so much for joining us today, and best of luck with the recount.
Thank you. Appreciate you guys.
Thank you guys so much for joining us today. We are going to be back this next week, and we are live on Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday, and we will be posting all weekend on social media. Thanks, and tune in.